If you're cold calling from a place of fear or hesitation, if you're worried about, what they're going to say and then what you're going to say, and you're trying to control everything that happens, you will keep losing opportunities that were likely already yours. You have to build rapport, but first, you have to establish authority. And worst of all, when you play the game of cold calling like this, you reinforce a false belief that you're not any good at this. And what you're trying to do is control everything that you say. You're trying to control every action. You're trying to get them to say things, and you're worried about what they may not say because it's not on the script. And what happens if they go off to Pluto? Before you know it, you're focused on trying to control everything rather than manage your own energy, rather than managing your participation. But once you understand how to control your own energy, the structure and the dynamic of every interaction, whether it's a cold call or it's a face-to-face meeting, you'll stop trying to survive it and you'll start directing it. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. If you think about it, in every human interaction, there is an unspoken psychological model that is instantly created. It's called the originator or subject model. And what happens is one person allows the other person to take the role of what we call the originator. This is the authority in the interaction that's going to happen. Now, some of these are already pre-programmed in our mind. We learned from a very early age that anybody with a white lab coat and a couple initials after their last name and a stethoscope, MD stands for minor deity. We treat a doctor like they're God, and anything they say is the gospel truth. We also have this set up for students and teachers. From a very early age, we were taught to respect the teacher and to listen to the teacher and follow the teacher's direction. They're the originator. They're the authority. We have this whenever we pay a lot of money for a service, like if we're going to an attorney. When you go in and meet with an attorney, you take the role of the subject. You're listening to them. You're looking at them as an expert, as an authority. You may not even know what college they graduated from, or what place in their graduating class they may have graduated last, but you still treat them with a level of authority because it's programmed into all of our minds from a very early age that a person who has authority should be followed and listened to. And that's the name of the game when you're cold calling. Right from the very first 4 seconds, what you're trying to do is establish yourself by the words you say, the tonality you use, and your physiology that controls your energy signature. So cold calling only feels hard when you forget that what you're doing is you're initiating that energy, that you're influencing the energy, that you're not reacting to what the other person's doing. You're controlling what you're doing and allowing them to respond. Your job isn't to play chief convincer. You're not trying to convince them to do something. It's about establishing authority in those first 4 seconds that holds your position as an expert and as authority. And when you do that, you will find that they will quite naturally allow you to lead. If you think about it, when you are cold calling, you are already in the position of authority. The person that you're calling, the person who's going to receive the call, usually a gatekeeper, a receptionist, a secretary, a manager, a personal assistant, they have been trained to treat whoever calls with a certain level of respect and reverence. So you already have that going into the call in your favor, that they are already conditioned and programmed to have an attitude of service. And so what you want to do is you want to stay in that position. You want to stay as the welcomed guest and not the pest. And you do that, again, by controlling your own energy. See, before the call, if you're hesitant, if you're doubtful about your own ability, what you do is you hand over the power dynamic before the phone even rings on the other side. It's true that your energy precedes you. In other words, before you walk into a room, people can feel your energy. Now, you know this. You've experienced this. You've been in a room before and somebody's walked in and you can instantly feel their energy. Now, you might lean over to a friend, a colleague, a spouse, and say, you know what? I don't get a good vibe from this person. What are you saying when you say, I don't get a good vibe from this person? Well, what you're doing is you're announcing your conscious awareness to a feeling inside of you based on the energy that your intuition is picking up on the other person. Feeling is a word that we created to describe the conscious awareness of another person's vibration. So we say, you know, I don't get a good vibe. I don't get a good feeling. And you know what? Since everything is really energy, it's not just with people, is it? There's some times where you may get a proposal or a document or a scope of work or a menu from a restaurant, or you may walk into a hotel. And right from the beginning, you say, you know what? Something just is off. I don't get a good vibe. I'm not feeling a good sensation here. That feeling you're having is being picked up by one of your 6 intellectual faculties: reason, memory, will, imagination. Intuition is one of them, and memory. And so your ability to use your intuitive factor to feel into not only your own energy, but the energy of the other person enhances your ability to control the dynamic even before the conversation starts. See, prospects don't respond to what you say first. They respond to who you are being when you say it. Now, that's from tonality. That's from a physiology. We know that when we're speaking, when we're communicating, if we sit up straight, if we put our shoulders back, if we lift our chin with confidence, if we put a smile on our face, we know that that physiology changes psychology. The physiology changes our energy signature. And people can actually feel and hear the smile of your energy, even though they can't see you. The moment you pick up the phone as the originator, the moment you pick up the phone in the energy signature of the authority, as the expert, with an awareness that you're not seeking validation from this other person. What you're doing is you're inviting alignment. And when you do that, right from the very beginning, the other person feels it at an unconscious level. Now, they may not be able to describe it. And I'm not suggesting that this is something that registers in them and, they're going to stop everything what they're going to do and part the Red Sea for you. But what I am saying is that slight little difference, that razor's edge difference, gives you an upper hand in every interaction that you have with other people. Again, you're not seeking validation. You're inviting alignment. The attitude that you have to have before you pick up the phone is that you are absolutely certain that what you are offering is the very best solution for the person on the other line. That you are the very best person with absolute certainty, that you are committed to seeing the implementation of your product or your service to its highest level and highest degree, that you're going to follow through after the sale to make sure that everything you said during the sales process is followed through, and that you have absolute certainty that the company that you're representing affords you that power and affords you that ability to go the extra mile for the client. And I would suggest that if you're selling something that you're not 100% certain in, and if you're representing a company that you're not 100% certain in, that you can't feel confident and certain of, then it's time for you to leave. It's time for you to find a better company, or it's time for you to improve whatever it is that you're offering to the clients. Because sales is the transference of the emotion of certainty. The prospect has to feel the certainty, and the only place they can get that certainty is from you. So it's not about you seeking validation. It's about you inviting alignment. I want you to also understand that this level of certainty happens long before rapport happens. Rapport doesn't come from being relatable. It doesn't come from, you finding common ground with the other person. It comes from you being grounded, from you being congruent, from you knowing that you're operating at the highest level of ethics and that you are 100% emotionally certain that your product, and your company is the very best solution. So many times on a cold calling situation, the salesperson is trying to get the other person to like them because we've been programmed to believe that rapport is all about know, like, and trust. And what we do is we reduce that idea into commonality. So we try to talk about the weather. Maybe we're cold calling in the office and we see that they have a picture of a dog and say, oh, I have a dog and you have a dog. We're dog people. And before you know it, you lose authority. You're no longer an expert. You're a friend. You're a casual acquaintance. You're not coming in as an expert, as an authority on the subject matter that addresses their problem. See, you don't build trust by being nice. You build it by being clear, by being direct, and by establishing 100% certainty, by being emotionally stable, in control of your own energy. Certainty isn't about how loud you talk. It's not about how fast you talk. It's not about pressure. It's not about pitch. It's about alignment between your intention and your energy. And that's established by the words you use, by the tonality that you use when you say those words, by your physiology, and by your pre-programming, by you taking a little bit of time before the call to build your own certainty. Most salespeople chase connection, but they completely miss the moment to create that connection through certainty. By saying, Jim, I am absolutely certain. If you'll just give me 1 minute, I'm absolutely certain that you're going to find my solution is the very best option for you and your team. See, that level of certainty builds connection. People want to buy from somebody who's confident in their ability to solve their problem. I don't know about you, but I want to know that whoever I'm dealing with is 100% sure that they can help me. My wife and I were traveling up to Orlando. It's only about 3 hours away. And sure enough, while we're on the turnpike, red light comes on the dashboard. We pull over. We call a tow truck driver. Tow truck driver takes us to a shop. And the guy looking underneath the thing says, well, I'm not really sure. It could be this, maybe it's that. I'm not sure how long it'll take. He certainly wasn't building certainty. Now, I didn't want him to lie, and maybe he was being 100% truthful. But what he could have said is, you know what, we have the very best diagnostic tools. We've got a computer system that can diagnose any problem, whatever that problem is. It's going to tell us exactly what it is so that we don't waste any of your time. We don't waste any of your money. We're not, getting you parts that you don't need or working on things that aren't going to resolve your issue. He said none of that. All he talked about was he wasn't sure. He was using hedging language the whole way through. I can assure you, had my wife and I had other options, we would have gone somewhere else. And as it unfolded, we just said, you know what? Just do whatever it takes to get us down the road a little bit. We're almost to Orlando. And we went from his shop right to the dealership. We would have stayed there and we would have paid for whatever repair it needed rather than just kind of patching it up. We would have paid for the changing of the part. We would have paid to upgrade to a better component, whatever they needed to do. But with his hedging language, with his body posture and physiology of uncertainty, all we wanted him to do was get us down the road so that we could go someplace else, so we could find somebody who absolutely knew they could help us. See, when you embody what I call calm confidence, your prospect, the other person, feels that. And you know what it registers to them? You know what safety, you know what certainty produces? Safety. Now, again, even though they don't know why, they feel like they're in good hands. I think that was one of the most brilliant marketing statements ever made when Allstate came out and said, "You're in good hands." What does that mean? That means that we're going to take care of you. Think of all that it conveys in that you're in good hands. I've used that line so many times when people were hiring me, especially to do the repolishing and resurfacing of their marble floors in their homes or in their businesses. These were usually expensive, redoing of all the floors, restorations of the floors. This would often cost, a homeowner $20,000, where we're grinding with diamonds and grinding their floor, and halfway through it looks terrible because you've got to grind all the polish away, and you've got to take it all the way down below the deepest scratch in the floor. So the floor looks a lot uglier before it ends up being beautiful. And we have to be able to speak to that prospect, to that homeowner in advance and tell them, look, you're going to be in very good hands. Your floor and all of your furnishings in your beautiful, 8,000 square foot mansion are going to be perfectly looked after. That we're trained, we're licensed and certified. All of our guys went through special training through the University of Tennessee, where we learned all about natural stone, where we understood the geology of the stone, where we understand the mineral makeup of the stone. And we're going to make sure that every single square foot of your tile is going to be restored to what it looked like on the day that it was installed. And we were building certainty every step of the way. When I would show up to their house, I would just walk into their house. I had a rolled up mat that I would roll down, brand new, beautiful mat that I would roll out, and I would step on that mat. And then I would take out surgical booties, those little blue booties that go over their shoe. And I would put those on my shoes before I would walk on their floor. Just that little bit of showmanship built so much certainty. It separated me from everybody else who pulled up with dirty shoes on, walked through their driveway, maybe even, maybe it was raining outside and they kind of, wiped their, the bottoms of their shoes on some entry mat and then just walked right on their floor. Or they took their shoes off and set them to the side and, dirty socks or a hole in their sock. Anything other than brand new white looking socks looks dirty to somebody else. Because look, it's your feet, not their feet. So they want to see that whoever's going to walk on their floor and whatever they're wearing to walk on their floor looks absolutely perfect. They don't want you bringing in, your dirty shoes onto their floor, maybe even scratching it from the sand that got on your foot by walking through their driveway and you picked up particulate soil. Now, none of this is consciously going through the mind of the homeowner. And none of this is played out over, the 60 seconds that it's taken me to describe the interaction. The thinking happens that quick, in the blink of an eye. That's why that idiom is so powerful, because it does. It happens in the blink of an eye. In our sales training course, we talk about establishing authority in the first 4 seconds. And often people will push back and say, you can't do that in 4 seconds. I'm going to tell you what, if you think about it, 4 seconds is an eternity for somebody to form a first opinion. I always do this. I invite somebody to take a deep breath with me. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to count to 4. Okay, ready? Take a deep breath. Just play with me. Take a deep breath. That's 4 seconds. Do you think that in that amount of time, you can size somebody up and form a first opinion? I'm not saying it's a perfect opinion, but you make a decision whether you trust this guy or not trust this, enough for the next 4 seconds. I'm not saying that, in those 4 seconds that they're never going to change their mind, because you can absolutely break rapport. But in those first 4 seconds, you can get them thinking, there's something different about this person. something positive about this person. I'm going to give this person a little bit. I'm going to let this person play this out. I'm going to let this person take the lead. So when the homeowner opens the door and says, come on in, I say, thank you very much, Mr. Smith. May I just put down this mat so I don't step on your floor? All of a sudden, I think, why has he got a mat? What's he doing? And they're watching me roll out this mat. And then they're watching me step onto the mat. And then it registers, oh, he's not stepping on my floor with his dirty. He cares about. All this is happening in the blink of an eye. And then when I pull out surgical booties and put them on, and they're brand new, super white, brand new, never been used, never been stepped in, never touched the floor surface before, they think, whoa, there's something different. This guy must know what he's doing. And instantly, I've established a level of a rapport before I've said anything. They trust me more than everybody else who's showed up to give them a proposal. And they don't even know why, but it's happened again at an unconscious psychological level. We have to do this whenever we're facing objections. We have to look at objections as a welcomed opportunity for us to show our level of experience, to show that we truly are the masters, that we truly are the pros, that we really are different. See, objections are not problems. They may be problems in the mind of your prospect, and we welcome that because the more problems they're aware of, the more they need a solution. So objections may be a problem for the prospect, but they're not for us. They're actually an opportunity for us to probe a little bit deeper. Objections aren't rejections. They're not rejections. Now, if they're not handled correctly, they could lead to rejections. But if you think about it, objections is just your way of being able to show you're more experienced than everybody else. See, they're a way for the prospect to ask you to build more certainty. When they say, I need to check with my wife, or I need to check with the office, or I need to check with the board of directors, or I have to run it by the manager, what they're saying is I don't have enough certainty to make this decision, or I don't have enough authority to make this decision. When they're telling you that, they're not sure about their budget, or they're not sure about the timing, whether they're going to do it now or they're going to push it back. What they're really saying is, I'm not certain enough to make this decision. I need you to help me build more certainty. I need you to help me feel more certain. Most objections, if we really think about it, are all the same. They're a smokescreen for a person's uncertainty. And what your prospect says is rarely the true issue that you need to solve. If they need to speak with their wife or they need to speak with the manager, they need to do that because there's something that they're not sure of. There's a level of uncertainty that they have. And what you want to do is find out what speaking to their manager or speaking to their spouse will do to help them build more certainty, because that's going to be the real issue that you need to solve. So if you try to overcome objections and you try to kind of force your way in, what you do is you create resistance. Remember this, force negates. As soon as you start to push, they start to push back. We've all seen the psychology experiment where the teacher invites a student to the front of the room and asks the student to hold up their hand, and the student holds up their hand and the teacher starts to press just a little bit. And the first thing that happens is the student starts to push back, and then the teacher starts to push. Before you know it, that's what they're doing. And that's what happens when we try to overcome rejections in a forceful way. We create resistance, and it doesn't build certainty. Even even if you win, you lose. But what you could do is you could deflect their objection with certainty and keep rapport. And so oftentimes when somebody gives you an objection, there's probably some validity to it. There's probably, a good reason why they have some level of uncertainty. So when somebody says to me, I need to talk to my wife or I need to talk to my husband, I say, absolutely you do. I haven't given you enough information for you to be 100% certain yet. I would fully expect that you would need to talk to your husband or your wife. As a matter of fact, when I'm making decisions like this with my family, I want to talk to my wife, Holly. Now all of a sudden, no resistance. I didn't push back. I didn't try to shame somebody. I didn't say to the husband, geez, Bill, aren't you the man of the family? Come on, can't you make a decision? Let the little woman kind of control you. Or I'm not going to say, come on, you're a woman of your time. You can make a decision. You don't need to, get approval from your husband. No, there's nothing I'm going to say. It's going to be able to get them over that level of uncertainty, other than making them realize that that's probably a smart strategy. I would agree with that. And, as a matter of fact, let me help you be completely equipped and resourced so that when you talk to your husband or when you talk to your wife or when you talk to the manager, you have all the information you need. And see, when you do that, you stay in the role of the expert. You stay in the role of the authority. You know what? Let me help you prepare for the conversation. When you talk to your husband, is your husband going to be more concerned about the pricing of the service, or is he going to want to understand all the details? Or is it a combination of both so that I know which resource I can give you? And if you'd like, I'd be happy to join you and your husband, and I'd be glad to go in and we can go into the deeper details that he or she may need. Do you see that? I'm not going to push back hard when somebody's uncertain. When you do that, all you do is build more uncertainty. Now, if you're in such a rush to get this done, if you're pushing me so quickly to sign on the dotted line, what are you hiding? It's just our human nature to question that. So a prospect's no is often just a test. Now, it's not even a test that they're aware that they're doing. It's a test that we've all been programmed over the course of our life from buying things in the past. It's a test to see, can this person hold their posture? Or will they fold? Can this person help me and serve me? Does this person turn into a jerk the minute I say no to them? I don't know about you, but I think I've got a TikTok addiction. And I watch a lot of TikTok. And of course, I watch a lot of sales TikToks. And I'm always amazed at the power of the Ring camera, that salespeople who cold call completely forget that they're being filmed. And so you watch them kind of slouch from the car, down up the driveway, up to the front door, kind of try to straighten themselves up a little bit at the last minute instead of walking from the car with confidence. They don't get out of the car with confidence. And then after having maybe it's a 30 or 60 second interaction with the homeowner, and the homeowner says, thank you, goodbye, and has to kind of reduce it to kind of pushing them out and just like get lost because the salesperson didn't know how to not be pushy, didn't know how to build certainty, didn't know how to maintain rapport, couldn't hold their own posture. And then when the door closes, you hear them curse. You hear them swear. You hear them show their true colors. And I saw one where the woman opened the door right back and she said, I knew that's who you were. I knew your whole polite ma'am was nothing but a skit. she spotted a phony a mile away. And what allows people to spot a phony a mile away, what allows you to spot a phony a mile away, is your intuition, your ability to read somebody else's energy. And so understand that your prospect speaks the language of energy, speaks the language of rapport, speaks the language of authority, of engagement, and of certainty, and can spot your energy signature even before you say a word, as they look through the peephole to see who you are, as they pick up the phone and hear that first 2 or 3 words out of your mouth. In that first blink of an eye, they're forming an opinion about you. And that opinion will tell them whether they give you the next 4 seconds or they go right down to default mode to just getting rid of you, closing the door, or hanging up on you. So remember that every objection is an invitation for you to deepen your certainty and to deepen your trust and to deepen your connection. This is not a time for you to abandon the sale. It's not a time for you to say, just like everybody else, all they care about is the price. No, this is an opportunity for you to get really curious, for you to dig in. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a sales process that allows you to have the structure, that allows you to be liberated into being able to build certainty. So when you have a structure, when you have a really proven framework, what you're doing is you're removing the guesswork. And that level of clarity frees up your mind so that you can focus on connection. This is why having a really well-tested script and having it, memorized to the degree that it doesn't sound memorized, that it sounds so natural that like you're saying it for the very first time. Have you ever gone to a Broadway play? I have a client whose daughter was the lead in Wicked on Broadway for about 7 years. And this girl played Glenda, the Good Witch, 6 times a week for years. Every single day, she said the exact same lines, the exact same tonality, at the exact same time, in the script. I remember after the show, we were allowed to go backstage and meet her. And she said, would you like to come out and, see the stage? And I said, of course I would love to see the stage. I'd love to stand on a Broadway stage. Who wouldn't? And in my amazement, when I went out onto the stage, there were like 100 little pieces of tape, like reflective tape, glow in the dark tape, but all in different colors. And I asked her, what are all and she said, oh, well, that's the mark on where we need to be for certain songs. Every single movement, every word, choreographed, rehearsed, scripted. Never once in her, 7 or 8 years as the lead in the play did she, gather the cast around before the start and say, hey, why don't we change things up tonight? Just go from the heart. Just speak from your heart tonight. Let's just let it roll. Let's just naturally see what happens. No, never. And for us in the audience, as we sat there, it didn't sound like somebody was a robot and saying every single word that they were scripted to. No. It flowed perfectly. The timing was just spot on. It was so rehearsed and so scripted and so choreographed that it looked natural. One of the greatest trainers of speakers of all time was the guy by the name of Bill Gove. Bill Gove trained everybody. He trained Og Mandino. He trained Zig Ziglar. He trained Wayne Dyer. He trained Anthony Robbins. He trained everybody on how to speak and engage and communicate and connect with an audience. And he used to say that if you're going to speak unscripted, if you're going to just speak from the heart, if you're going to just kind of have a few bullet points and allow that to kind of guide you, he said, make sure that you're wearing a black suit or a black dress so that one day when you're on stage and you die on stage and you tank and you bomb and you blow it, they can just take you out back and bury you because it's going to happen. You want to be a true pro. Do you think a cardiac surgeon? Do you think a brain surgeon? Do you think a dentist makes it up as they go along? Do you think a high-priced litigating attorney, defense attorney, or prosecutor, do you think they just kind of go into court and say, you know what, I'm going to read the audience. I'm going to, kind of read the jury and, I'm going to just feel it in. No. I used to clean in my cleaning days, big law firms. And I always knew when they were coming up to a big case because on the weekends, like all day Saturday and all day Sunday into the night hours, they would have a mock trial from beginning to end, senior partner serving as the judge. And they would hire people to come in and serve as the jury. And they would prosecute the case. They would defend the case long before they ever went into the courtroom in front of a real jury. They would never risk the outcome without controlling every single aspect that they could control. See, this is the difference between a sales pro and a salesperson. A salesperson is kind of, watching this video because they're looking for, the quick tip or the quick tactic. And they're going to take that quick tactic and they're going to try it tomorrow. And they're going to find that didn't work. Well, none of it's going to work. There's no trick or tip or tactic that's going to work unless it's applied to a strategy. And unless it's applied with elegance, unless it's deployed by a true pro, by a real pro. Do you ever see like a workman? We're building a beautiful summer kitchen and a beautiful gym in the back of my house right now. It's $1 million renovation, and I'm watching the guys lay the block. And these guys have been doing this for so long. They are moving so fast and so perfectly. And so I said to the guy, can I try that? Can I? And he gives me the trowel and I'm trying to put the cement on top of the block. And it's, mortars going all over the place. I'm there for 2 minutes. I've got more of it in my face and my hair and my shirt and my shoes than I do on the block. And these guys were just like perfect because they're masters. They have so much repetition. They've developed so much skill over time. They're pros. And so the question here is like, are you going to be a salesperson? Or are you going to be a sales pro? And the difference is in your training. The difference is do you have a proven model? And if you don't, I'm inviting you to try ours. See, the reason most cold calls unravel isn't because you're not any good at it. That's a part of it. But it's because you probably don't have a map. You don't have a map. You're trying to force it You've been told it's a numbers game. Smile and dial, knock and walk. It's not a numbers game. You can absolutely influence the numbers. Absolutely. Are you telling me that it's just a matter of, if you make 100 calls, you get 10 deals? Because if that's the case, hire any chimpanzee to do that. I've managed really, really good sales teams, trained them to be, these guys were killers. They're like assassins. They were awesome. These guys were masters, men and women. They were masters at what they did. And they treated it that way. And before every single day, they'd come in an hour and they would role play with each other. They would take time. They'd sit down for an hour and work on 2 or 3 words in a language pattern. It was strategy. Do you think an NFL football team, just kind of makes it up as they go along? Have you ever seen a Monday morning in an NFL team? Ever see what they're doing? After getting, their bodies beat up all day Sunday, Monday morning, 10 o'clock, they are watching the tape. They are watching the films. And on Monday and Tuesday, they are looking at every single play. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, they're watching the team that they're going to play this weekend. They're watching their teams to see where their weaknesses are and how they're going to respond and how they're going to control the ball. See, most people suck at cold calling, not because the leads suck. It's because they've never given themselves the time to develop the skill. They're thinking that it's just a numbers game. They're hoping just by sheer determination, by sheer hustle, that they're gonna create a result. No, you're gonna create a result, and then you're gonna go to work on improving that result. And improving the result means improving you. And if you're cold calling, if that's how you're building your book of business right now, is through cold calling, phone or otherwise, walking and talking or texting, however you're doing, emailing it. If you don't have the strategic model, that's what I'm hoping that I'm going to help you fix. Again, the structure, it's not about being rigid. It's not about being rigid. It's not about you being controlled by management. It's about creating a predictable, emotional flow right from the beginning of the interaction. It's about you establishing authority. A predictable model gives you a level of confidence. It gives you a level of certainty in yourself. And I can tell you this, that when you are confident and you are certain, your prospect is given permission to follow you. They'll follow you. They'll follow your lead. They'll give you the ability to lead with authority. They'll give you the next 4 seconds, and then the next 10 seconds, and then the next 20 seconds. And their opinion of you will go from a salesperson to a trusted partner in this process, as a respected person who understands their situation. Remember, and always remember this, what sales is. Sales, at its highest level, is the transference of emotion. People buy on emotion and then they justify it with logic. And the emotion that's being transferred for a sale is the transference of the emotion of certainty. And emotion follows structure. Emotion will follow the structure as long as that structure is sound. And when there's no structure, the emotion follows it into chaos, into an unpredictable outcome, into uncharted waters. So let's talk about what what really makes a script work. And what makes a script work is the energy behind it. Because remember, that's what your prospect feels first. Even before you say a word, they feel your energy. Again, every single human being, we have an intuition. And that intuition can feel the energy signature. Again, you know this. How many times have you been thinking of a friend or loved one, and all of a sudden they call? Out of the blue, you get a text message. Out of the blue, they email you. You say, "Oh my gosh, I was just thinking of you." And we kind of laugh it off as coincidence. Not coincidence. It's an absolute law. It's the law of energy. It's called the law of vibration. And the law of vibration sets up what's called the law of attraction. So many people get caught up on like, oh, it's the law of attraction. I'm going to attract it from the universe. Well, the law of attraction is the secondary law. The primary law is the law of vibration. That's your energy. It lines up with cause and effect, right? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Why would you ever leave your action and your energy signature up to chance? Why would you ever wing it? So I'm inviting you, pause, go down to the description, right in where the description is, and click on that link and get this guide. See, the call follows your frequency. Your cold call follows your energy signature. The energy you carry when you're dialing the phone sets the atmosphere for the entire conversation. Your physiology. I mean, we know. I've worked with Joseph McClendon, who's, probably the number one trainer in neuroscience and applying neuroscience in peak performance. He's been Tony Robbins' partner for 15 years. And Joseph, well, he calls me his sales mentor. I've worked with Daniel Amen. The guy has looked at more brains through brain scanning than anybody else in the history of the world. Over 250,000 different brains. He understands neuroscience. And any neuroscientist, any psychologist, any psychiatrist, anybody who understands, who does energy work will tell you that you carry an energy signature and that you can absolutely control the energy of the other person even before you interact with them, just by changing your own energy. Dr. Wayne Dyer said it this way, that when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at are changed. That you are so powerfully creative, that your energy is so powerful that just by looking at something, your energy can change that thing. So the energy that you carry before you walk up the driveway, before you pick up the phone, really determines the atmosphere of the entire conversation. And see, you can't fake or mask or hide hesitation by using clever words. See, your energy will leak before your words are heard. People will feel it first. We hear with our ears, but we listen with emotion. That's what we do. We listen with emotion. We hear emotion. We really listen to the tonality. Those things register for us. And as soon as it does, at an unconscious level, we assign meaning to it. Do I like this person? Do I not like this person? Do I trust this person? Do I not trust this person? If you're broadcasting anxiety, if you're broadcasting hesitation, the other person feels that. And their triggered response is resistance. Because it's not congruent with the energy that anybody wants. Nobody wants to be around, anxious, chaotic energy. Nobody wants to be around energy where somebody's trying to force them, into making a decision. Do you want to go with Tuesday or Thursday? Would afternoon or evening be better? And we try these, language patterns that are going to try to, and that now you've tricked them into saying Tuesday. You don't trick anybody. You don't trick anybody. Somebody may say, yeah, Tuesday's better. Yes, the afternoon's better. And then Tuesday afternoon, when you call them, they're not there. You say, but they said they'd be there. Yeah, they said that. They said that because you were forcing them. What they did is they passively aggressively said no to you. See, every prospect is subconsciously tuning into your emotional state long before you ever engage with your offer. So if you want better outcomes, don't just change your words, change your signal. Now, if you haven't downloaded the cold calling framework yet, this is the moment to do it. Because let's just be honest with each other. You're not going to remember everything that we've talked about. You're not going to remember everything that came through on this video. When you're sitting at your desk tomorrow and you're staring at the long list of people you need to call, you need the words, you need the structure, you need the model, you need the framework. You're not going to be able to rush through your notes and kind of find it. Hopefully you've taken a page or two of notes here today. And when you're taking notes, I encourage you not to write down what I say, but write down what you think about as a result of something I say. And you're going to want the framework and the structure in front of you while it's still fresh. So pause right now. Click the link in the description. Grab the full script, the full framework. This is the exact framework that I've used and that I've taught to thousands of salespeople. And we have generated over $1 billion using this exact framework. And it's yours. It's free. And once you've got that, here's where I want to go next. I want you to watch my video, and it's called Business Skills That Make Millions. Business skills that make billions. Because just cold calling is just one piece. That's one piece of the strategy. If you want to build a business that actually creates wealth, doesn't just transact dollars for hours, then what you're going to need is more than just motivation. You need the skill sets. You need the mindset. And in that video, I'm going to walk you through the exact principles that I've used to build 5 multi-million-dollar companies starting from scratch. I started as a high school dropout. I made it just out of the 10th grade. That was it. I've been on my own, out of my house, when I was 15 years old. And what I'm giving you, no fluff, no hype, just real business, sound principles that work. Click the link right now in the description section, and it'll take you right to this next video. Get the guide and go now and watch this next video. I'll see you on the other side.